Equipped with this theorem, we can actually calculate the 2 break distance between human and mouse genomes quite easily, right. So, you first have to figure out all the Synteny blocks between human and mouse genomes. So, there are algorithms for doing that, and then that returns 280 Synteny blocks or 280 blocks of genes that are conserved between human and mouse genomes across all the chromosomes, and the breakpoint graph on these blocks has 35 cycles, and then so you can just simply subtract these two. 280 minus 35 is 245. Okay, that is going to be your 2 break distance between the human and mouse genomes. Now, there may be more than one scenarios. In fact, there are numerous 245 step scenarios of different series of 2 break operations that will transform one genome to the other, and the true evolutionary scenario may have more than 245 steps also, but it cannot be smaller than 245 steps because the opt is lower bounded by 245. Right. So, the actual evolutionary scenario may have 245 or more than 245. A parsimonious explanation is that it had 245 steps. Okay. Now, let us go back to a question of the random breakage model, and then in light of this new 2 break distance that we have 245 between the human and mouse genomes, let us just see if the random breakage model of chromosomal evolution holds true still. Okay. Okay. So, according to the random breakage model, if you have like different random 2 breaks that happen in the genome, okay, each 2 break is going to give you roughly 2 blocks. Okay. So, if you have n breaks, then you will have n 2n Synteny blocks. Okay. And so, since there are 280 human mouse Synteny blocks, right. So, you must have approximately 142 breaks on the human mouse evolutionary path. Okay. But what we do get is that we get 245 2 break paths, right, because this 245 is this number of blocks minus number of cycles, right, and that was 280 minus 35, which was 245, right, final thing. So, we have this discrepancy now, this 245 which is implied by the 2 break distance theorem and 140 which is implied by the random breakage model. Okay. The 245 is actually a lower bound on the optimum. So, you cannot do better than 245. Okay. 245 is the smallest number of operations, 2 break operations that you need to do in any kind of scenario, right, any evolutionary scenario to transform mouse to a human genome. You cannot do better than 245, smaller than 245. Okay. And that essentially means that the random breakage model is not supporting this particular lower bound, and that is indeed false. Then we cannot say that the random breakage model is correct, and that assumption is wrong. Okay. But then if the random breakage model is wrong, then it did fit the exponential distribution of the block lengths, right, the Synteny block length. So, how would you explain that? What is really happening here? And why have they embraced this random breakage model, right? And the main statistical evidence for this is the block lengths that we have seen before. To understand this apparent contradiction, right, so we will have to look at multiple implications of a particular model and whether the observed data matches all of those implications. Okay. So, for instance, here the exponential distribution, the random breakage model, there is statistical evidence supporting that. So, the random breakage model is consistent with the exponential distribution of block lengths. Okay. So, that is S here, but this breakpoint reuse, right, which is these 245 breakpoints that we have as a lower bound on the minimum number of breakpoints, the or 245 2 breaks that we have on the minimum number of 2 breaks to transform one genome to the another, that is not matching whatever we are observing in the observed data, the observed number of Synteny blocks and cycles between human and mouse genomes. Okay. So, RBM does not match it. So, we need a better theory, a better model to match both of these properties. Okay. And in fact, there does exist such a model, it is called fragile region model. Okay. The random breakage model says that there is no fragile regions in the genome, and then anywhere random positions the genome can break and recombine, right. But then what the fragile breakage model FBM says is that there are fragile regions with high propensity for rearrangement, they are where the hotspots are for rearrangements to happen, and then there are more stable solid regions which have low frequency of rearrangements happening. Okay. And then these fragile regions themselves are small and they are randomly distributed along the genome, so that the exponential distribution of this block lengths can also be captured. Okay. And basically that is what is this FBM model. So, you have these fragile regions and solid regions, and the fragile regions are randomly distributed. So, you have an exponential distribution of block lengths, and at the same time this model will capture the 245 as the lower bound on the number of 2 breaks to transform mouse genome to the human genome. So, both of these properties that we observe in real world data, this exponential distribution of block lengths and the number of 2 break operations, the breakpoint reuse, are satisfied by the FBM model. Okay. Do we stop here, or are there other properties of the observed data that we should be looking at, right? And so, if you have a new test where both of these are new, then we will have to revise our model. And so, this is a natural process in science, right. So, you start with a simpler model, and then if there is certain data that it does not fit, then we revise our model, we try to see if it fits the data and then make certain predictions, and then if that does not get validated, then we will have to revise our model, right. And in fact, there is such a model where you can use multiple genomes to figure out a multiple breakpoint reuse, and then that is not satisfied by the FBM model, and then so you need to come up with other advanced models that builds on top of the FBM model, the fragile breakpoint model. Okay. And that really looks at fragile regions not as fixed entities that are there in the genome, but they appear, they disappear. So, there is birth and death of fragile processes. Okay. This is called as a turnover fragile breakage model, or TFBM, right. And then that will then match this third observed property called multiple breakpoint reuse, where you are looking at the 2 break operations that will relate a set of different species, not just 2 permutations, but multiple permutations correspond to multiple related species. Okay. Then the TFBM model will satisfy all 3 of them. Okay. And the process of science continues, and so we have seen that this 2 break distance theorem, and then this figuring out the lower bound on the number of 2 breaks that is required to transform one genome to the other, is crucial to understand certain theories about chromosome evolution as well. So, what we have seen is this 2 break distance between 2 genomes, right. These 2 genomes, let us say a mouse and a human genome, represented as signed permutations or multi-chromosomal permutations, and then the minimum number of 2 break operations to transform one genome to the other. And this has shown to be useful to understand models of chromosome evolution. So, we were using these bounds on optimum number of 2 breaks to prove that certain models cannot be right and certain other models are consistent with the observed data, and so on. Okay. So, in addition to these evolutionary insights, like we have said before, it can also be used to understand the landscape of cancer genomes, okay, how the cancer genomes have undergone these 2 break operations and transformed from a normal genome to a cancer genome. Okay. But to do all of this, to figure out these distances, you need to be able to represent a genome as a signed permutation, as a multi-chromosomal signed permutation in the first place. Okay. And that means that we need to know where the blocks of genes are that are conserved between 2 species, and what is the ordering of these blocks. Okay. And that is really what the final topic is, called Synteny block construction, right. We want to know what are these blocks in the first place and how they are oriented, and then which blocks are similar to which other blocks, and so on. So, here for instance, the pink block is the final block, and that is in somewhere in the middle, oriented in the opposite direction in the mouse chromosome, right. And then the idea is that within these blocks, the sequences are mostly conserved. It may have like multiple sets of contiguous genes, right. And then similarly, the first block is the same between the human and mouse chromosome. So, given a mouse genome or a mouse chromosome and a human genome or a human chromosome, we want to know what are the maximal regions that are conserved between these blocks, and then in what order these blocks are. Okay. As mentioned before, we are not going to spend too much time on it, but just wanted to give a very high level view, and then leave it to self reading if you are interested to see how these blocks are constructed in a bit more detail. Okay. Let us just directly jump to what kind of a data structure or a matrix plot is used to find these Synteny blocks. Okay. So, we are going to spend a brief amount of time on how to construct these Synteny blocks, and the first step in constructing the Synteny blocks is to construct this data structure, which is a matrix like data structure called a dot plot, okay, where you have the first genome along the x axis, the second genome along the y axis, and then you have shown there are 2 strands that are being shown here. Okay. This is the forward strand, this is the reverse strand. Okay. The 2 strands of the DNA are being shown, they are complementary to each other. Okay. The reason for showing 2 strands is that we are not only interested in matches on the forward strand, we are also interested in matches on the forward and the reverse strand. Okay. Because some genes due to these 2 break operations can jump from the forward strand to the reverse strand in another species. Okay. Forward strand in one species to reverse strand in the other species. So, let us just now look at how this matrix is filled. You put a dot here. If a certain k-mer, in this particular case the k-mer, k is taken to be 3 in this particular diagram. Okay. if you have a trimer like AGC here in the forward strand and then AGC here in the reverse strand, these are same, right? Then the starting position here is marked as a dot, meaning that those trimers are identical. Okay. Another example is shown here. This is AGG, this is AGG, and the other windows are also shown over here and here. Okay. Now this is the forward strand match, but there is also a reverse strand forward strand match. Okay. In this particular case, let's look at this particular dot. You have a TTA here, right? And the reverse complement of the sequence is TAA, right? You have to read it in the reverse and use the complementary basis. So that TAA is going to be here, right? So this TAA and then this reverse complement of TTA is TAA, and so that means that there is this blue dot. Okay. So similarly, you just put in all these blue and red dots, and if two dots, okay, these are the nodes, okay, these are the points in 2D which are the matching k-mers. In some sense, these are the anchors which are segments of the two chromosomes or two genomes that are matching between the two species, okay, either in the forward direction or the forward reverse direction. Now you add edges to this dot plot. Okay, the nodes are these points in 2D. You connect close points, distance below a certain threshold called a max distance, to each other. Okay, so here for instance this blue dot is close to this blue dot and also this blue dot. So you have added two edges here. Similarly for these other blue dots, you just basically connect dots that are nearby each other up to a certain maximum distance threshold that the user can specify. Now once you have this, you can now look at all the connected components in this graph, and that will give you the Synteny blocks. And there are certain details that I'm suppressing here. So what is max distance and how do we find the connected blocks? Are there any other ways of figuring out these connected blocks and so on? But suffices to say that this is largely the idea used in Synteny block constructions or identifying the Synteny blocks. You first construct this dot plot, you connect these nearby dots in this dot plot, and then look for stretches of nodes that are connected by edges or these connected components in this dot plot graph. Okay, each connected component will give you a Synteny block, and that is what is shown here. In this particular case, we have 25,000 anchors, these initial starting matches, right, regions of shared similarity, and then then you are looking for long stretches like connected components which are very long in this particular graph. And then you can see here that there are all these different connected components which look pretty large between the human and the mouse chromosome. On the x-axis is the human chromosome, on the y-axis is the mouse chromosome, okay, in this dot plot. So you can identify these things, you can give them different colors indicating that these are different blocks, and then you can also look at the orientation. If they are oriented along the forward diagonal direction, then you can give a plus sign. If they are in the reverse, the opposite diagonal, then you can give it a minus sign and so on, and then map it back to the mouse and human chromosomes, right? And that is how you get the 11 Synteny blocks. Okay, so these are the 11 Synteny blocks. So here you have ordered along the human chromosome, and here you have it ordered along the mouse chromosome. Final take. So this concludes our discussion of how to construct Synteny blocks. Now coupling this discussion with the discussion we have already had about how to figure out the two break distance between two genomes that are represented as orderings of these blocks, we have a full picture of how genome level mutations happen between two species. Okay. If you find this topic interesting, the kind of puzzle like thinking and then the combinatorial algorithms that are involved in transforming one genome to the other genome, right? You may also be interested in referring this particular study published in Science. If you are interested in this puzzle based thinking and algorithmic thinking, a combinatorial algorithmic thinking involved in sorting a permutation into another permutation and then using that information to understand the evolutionary distance in terms of genome rearrangements between two genomes, you may also find this particular work that is published in Science in 2013 on figuring out the extensions of two break distance between multiple mammalian genomes. Okay, and this gives some very cool insights about how the different mammals are related and then what are the transformations that transform one mammal to the other mammal in this set of mammals. Okay. With that, I will conclude this session, and thanks for your interest and attention.